I was standing in the church parking lot watching the Texas sunset paint everything gold. Inside, I could hear laughter from my sister's rehearsal dinner. I had spent $51,000 to make this wedding perfect. Every flower, every plate, every note of music was because of me, and I felt proud. For the first time in years, I felt like I belonged. Then my father walked out, his face red with rage, pointing at my car. I did not know that in 30 seconds my entire life would change forever, all because of a parking spot. Before I tell you what happened next, let me know where you are watching from today. Drop your city in the comments below. And if you have ever felt invisible in your own family, hit that subscribe button right now. This story still keeps me up at night. Trust me, you are going to want to hear how this ends. But to understand why that slap broke something inside me forever, I need to take you back to the very beginning. My name is Tom. I am 32 years old. And for most of my life, I have been the forgotten child. Let me tell you about my family. My father, Richard, is 58 years old. He worked as a construction foreman for 30 years before retiring. He is the kind of man who believes sons should pull themselves up by their bootstraps. No help, no handouts, no excuses. He grew up poor, and he made sure I knew that every single day. My mother passed away from cancer when I was 19. She was the only person in my family who ever truly understood me. Before she died, she held my hand and made me promise one thing. She said, "Tom, keep this family together. No matter what, promise me." I promised her, and for 13 years I tried to keep that promise. Then there is my sister Diana. She is 28 years old, 4 years younger than me. Diana has always been the golden child, the princess, the one my father brags about at every family gathering. When Diana graduated college, my father threw her a party. When I graduated with honors in computer science, he forgot to show up. That is just how it has always been. Growing up, I learned to be invisible. I learned that asking for attention only led to disappointment. So I stopped asking. I worked part-time jobs through high school. I taught myself to code when I was 16 years old. I paid my own way through college while Diana got her tuition covered by our father. I never complained. I just kept my head down and worked. By the time I turned 30, I had built something real. I became a senior software engineer at a tech company in Austin. My salary was around $180,000 a year. I owned my own condo. I had savings. I had investments. I had everything I ever wanted except the one thing money could not buy: my father's respect. The thing is, my family had no idea how successful I had become. I never talked about money. I drove a modest car. I wore regular clothes. My father still thought I was just some guy who sat in front of a computer all day playing with code. He would make comments at family dinners like, "When are you going to get a real job, Tom?" or "Diana is doing so well at her marketing firm. You should learn from your sister." I swallowed it. One day I would do something so big that even my father would have to acknowledge me. And then Diana announced her engagement to Kevin. Kevin was 30 years old, a salesman from a middle-class family. Nice enough guy. Nothing special. But Diana was over the moon, and she wanted the wedding of her dreams. The venue she picked was a country club outside Austin. 200 guests. Designer everything. The estimated cost was $75,000. My father called a family meeting to discuss finances. He sat at the head of the table, Diana and Kevin on one side, me on the other. He cleared his throat and announced that he could contribute $20,000. Kevin's family offered $10,000. That left $45,000 uncovered. Diana's face crumbled. She started crying about how her dream wedding was ruined, how she would have to settle for something mediocre, how unfair life was. Kevin tried to comfort her, but she was inconsolable. I sat there watching my little sister cry, and something shifted inside me. This was my chance. This was the moment I had been waiting for. If I paid for this wedding, if I made Diana's dreams come true, maybe my father would finally see me. Maybe he would finally say, "Tom, I am proud of you." So I made a decision. I asked Diana to meet me for coffee the next day, just the two of us. When she arrived, her eyes were still puffy from crying. I slid an envelope across the table. Inside was a check for $45,000. She stared at it. Then she stared at me. "Tom, what is this I am paying for the rest of your wedding?" I said. "Consider it my gift." Her jaw dropped. "Are you serious? You have this kind of money?" I nodded. "I have been doing well. I want to do this for you. But I had one condition. I told her not to tell our father. I said it was because I did not want him to feel embarrassed that he could not afford it himself. That was the reason I gave her. The real reason was different. I was terrified that if my father knew the money came from me, he would refuse it out of pride. He would rather see Diana have a smaller wedding than accept help from his disappointment of a son. Diana hugged me. She cried into my shoulder and told me I was the best brother in the world. For one beautiful moment, I felt like I mattered. I felt like I was finally part of this family. Over the next few months, I paid for everything. The country club venue cost $18,000. Catering for 200 guests was $15,000. Diana's designer wedding dress was $8,000. Flowers and decorations were $4,000. And when Diana decided she needed a wedding planner, I added another $6,000 to the bill. The total came to $51,000, more than I originally promised, but I did not care. I was buying something more valuable than a wedding. I was buying my place in this family, or so I thought. The first red flag came 3 months before the wedding. It was a Sunday dinner at my father's house. Diana was glowing, talking about all the amazing details of her upcoming wedding. She described the venue, the flowers, the custom menu. My father listened with pride in his eyes, nodding along. "My little girl," he said, "you really pulled this together. I am so proud of you." Diana smiled. "Thanks, Daddy. I worked really hard on it." I waited. I waited for her to look at me, to give me some kind of acknowledgement, maybe a subtle nod, maybe a quick glance that said, "Thank you, Tom. I could not have done this without you." Nothing. She just kept talking about how she had found the perfect centerpieces online, how she had negotiated with vendors, how she had done it all herself. I felt something cold settle in my chest, but I pushed it down. I told myself she was just caught up in the excitement. She would thank me properly later. The second red flag came when the groomsmen were announced. I assumed I would be part of the wedding party. Maybe not the best man, but at least a groomsman. I had paid for more than half of this wedding. Surely that counted for something. Diana called me one evening. "Hey, Tom. So about the wedding party. Kevin wants his college friends to be groomsmen, but we were hoping you could handle the guest book table. You know, greet people as they come in." I was silent for a long moment. "You want me to work the guest book? It is a really important job," she said quickly. "You will be the first face everyone sees." I wanted to say something. I wanted to ask why I was being pushed to the side of my own sister's wedding, but I did not. I just said, "Sure, Diana. Whatever you need." The third red flag was the invitation. When the wedding invitations arrived, I opened mine with a strange sense of dread. I flipped to the back where it said "Special thanks." There was my father's name, Kevin's parents, Diana's college roommate, her coworker who helped with planning. My name was nowhere. I called Diana. "Hey, I noticed I am not in the thank you section of the invitation." She laughed it off. "Oh, Tom, the list was so long. We had to cut somewhere." "You understand, right?" I understood perfectly. I was good enough to write the checks, but not good enough to be acknowledged. I was the invisible man, the walking wallet, nothing more. But I still did not say anything. I had invested too much, not just money but hope. I kept telling myself that after the wedding, everything would change. After the wedding, they would all know what I did, and they would be grateful. 1 week before the wedding, we had the rehearsal dinner at the church. About 50 people showed up. I arrived early because I needed to meet with the wedding planner about the final payments. There were still $12,000 in vendor fees that needed to be settled. I parked in the church lot in a spot marked "Reserved for Family." I figured it was obvious. I was family. I was paying for this entire thing. Where else would I park? The rehearsal went smoothly. Diana was radiant. Kevin looked nervous but happy. My father gave a toast about what a wonderful daughter Diana was, how proud he was of her, how blessed he felt to be her father. He did not mention me once. After the dinner, people started heading home. I stayed behind to finalize things with Sandra, the wedding planner. We stood near the church entrance going over the last details. I pulled out my checkbook and started writing a check for $12,000. That is when my father walked by. He stopped, his eyes locked onto the check in my hand, then onto the spreadsheet Sandra was holding, then back to me. "What is this?" he asked, his voice low. Sandra, who had no idea about our arrangement, smiled pleasantly. "Oh, this is the final payment from Tom. He has been such a blessing. He covered most of the wedding expenses." My father's face changed. It went from confusion to disbelief to something dark I had never seen before. "You paid for this wedding?" he asked me. "Dad, I just wanted to help Diana. You think I cannot take care of my own daughter?" His voice rose. People around us stopped and turned to look. "You think I am some kind of failure who needs his son to bail him out? That is not what this is about. You have been going behind my back this whole time, making me look like a fool." Diana rushed over. "Daddy, calm down." My father turned to her, his eyes blazing. "You knew about this. You knew he was paying for everything." Diana froze. She looked at me, then at our father. And instead of defending me, instead of explaining that I only wanted to help, she said, "I did not think you would find out. Not Tom did this out of love. Not Tom saved my wedding. Just I did not think you would find out." Something inside me cracked. My father turned back to me. His face was purple with rage. "You think you are better than me. You think your money makes you somebody. Dad, please, you are nothing," he shouted. "You hear me? Nothing." And then he slapped me. Right there in front of 50 people, my father slapped me across the face so hard I stumbled backward. The sound echoed across the parking lot. Everything went silent. I touched my cheek, feeling the burning heat where his hand had connected. My father was not finished. "Get out," he snarled. "You are not welcome at this wedding. You are not my son. Get out of my sight, and do not ever come back." I looked around. Everyone was staring. Kevin was looking at his shoes. The wedding planner had her hand over her mouth, and Diana, my sister, the one I had given $51,000 to, was standing right next to our father. She did not say a word. Not one word in my defense. That silence hurt more than the slap ever could. I walked to my car on shaking legs. I got in, started the engine, and drove away. My cheek was still burning, but something else was burning too. 13 years of trying to hold this family together. 13 years of swallowing my pride. 13 years of believing that if I just gave enough, loved enough, sacrificed enough, I would finally be accepted. It all burned to ash in that parking lot. I drove to my apartment and sat in my car for a long time. My phone kept buzzing. Diana called 12 times. I did not answer. Her text messages came through one after another. "Tom, do not do anything stupid." Not an apology. A warning. I looked at myself in the rearview mirror. The red mark on my cheek was already fading, but the wound inside me was just beginning to open. That night I made a decision. For the first time in my life, I was going to put myself first. At 6 in the morning, I picked up my phone and called Sandra, the wedding planner. "Sandra, this is Tom. I need to cancel all pending payments immediately." There was a long pause. "Tom, the wedding is in 5 days. I understand, but I am no longer the sponsor. If the family wants to proceed, they will need to make their own arrangements. But the venue, the caterer, everything I know. Please proceed with the cancellations." I could hear the shock in her voice, but she was professional. She said she understood and would handle it. At 7:30, I called the country club. They needed the final payment by Thursday, or the reservation would be automatically canceled. I told them to remove my payment information from the account. The manager tried to explain the consequences. I told him I was fully aware. At 8, I called the caterer. Without full payment, they could not provide service for 200 guests. I canceled my portion. They said they would reach out to the family directly. Over the next hour and a half, I called the florist, the photographer, and the DJ. One by one, I removed myself from every contract. Each call felt like cutting a rope that had been strangling me for years. When I was done, I sat back and felt something strange. It was not joy. It was not revenge. It was relief. Like I had been holding my breath for 13 years, and finally exhaled. Then I wrote Diana an email. "Diana, I have withdrawn all funding for your wedding. All vendors will require new payment arrangements within 24 hours, or they will cancel their services. Attached is a spreadsheet with the amounts owed and contact information for each vendor. I wish you well, Tom." I hit send. 2 hours later, my phone exploded. Diana called 17 times in a row. I let every call go to voicemail. Her messages evolved rapidly. First, she was sweet. "Tom, please call